Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. This one comes up a lot. So I'm going to talk about smoking weed. I guess this could apply to any kind of drug allegations or alcohol abuse allegations. But I have all kinds of guys who, the mom shows a picture. I had a guy just today. He said he was doing contempt and the mom flashed a picture of him smoking weed one time. And so the court didn't find her in contempt. The court order was still in place. So the court order is still in the best interest of the child. And the mother wasn't doing what's best for the child, and she didn't try and modify it, but then she says, oh, he smoked weed one time. Now, I don't smoke weed. I never have. I've never been drunk in my life. But, I don't approve of it. But people are going to do what they're going to do, and it's legal in most states. And marijuana has been vilified. They used to use it. They had flyers back in the early 1900s or something like that. When they're trying to outlaw marijuana, and the government wanted to make money off of it. And they had signs that say, when black men smoke weed, they rape white women, and all this crazy paranoia stuff that they created to vilify the drug. And of course, it has its medical purposes and stuff. And of course, there's plant stuff, all the CBD and things. People who claim they've been healed from cancer and helps with seizures and all that stuff. So I'm not going to knock it, which is not a personal thing for me. So, again, when you have an issue like this, read the freaking law. Does the law say if you smoke weed one time? Or, see, a lot of people say, what about this scenario? What about that scenario? What about this scenario? They all fall under the law. Go read the law. That's like saying, when I'm driving, can I wave my hand out the window? Can I, have my brights on? Can I do this? If you know the rules of the road or the law, you don't have to ask somebody every single action you're going to take, whether it falls in line, because you know the law. But when it comes to things like this with the weed smoking, now that guy had a different argument because it was contempt. It was still a court order, still a violation. The order was in the best interest of the child. I've given you guys arguments for that. If she won't get found in contempt for withholding the child and the love of a parent, and love is more important than money, then I'll just stop paying child support and you won't find me in contempt for that, right? But of course they will. And they'll throw you in jail. So if love and relationships are 100 times more important than money, then they should find her in contempt. So if you know the law, like let's take for example Washington law. It says that you can put restrictions on a parent if they have a substance abuse problem, a long-term substance abuse problem that interferes with the performance of parenting functions. Now, if you read that law, listen very carefully. If you read that law has multiple elements. The person has to have a substance abuse problem. And then it has to be long-term, like it's been going on or it continues to go on, like you didn't just get drunk one night and go crazy or high and fall asleep in a park. But you know that you have to have a drug and alcohol assessment evaluator, what are they called? A chemical dependency expert. They would have to evaluate you and use that expert testimony. Like the mother can't say, oh, he's an alcoholic. Or the father can't say, oh, she's a heroin addict. They have to actually have drug testing and have a specialist testify. That's called expert witness testimony. There's the rules of evidence on that. If you don't know the rules of evidence, let me say this. If you don't know the rules of evidence, I have a couple videos on a couple of the rules of evidence. The hearsay exception, I think. I have a video on the rule ER 602 or the personal knowledge rule. If you go to court, you need to know the basic fundamental rules of everything, especially the rules of evidence. That's what's allowed in court and what's not allowed in court. If the other side brings in stuff in court that's not allowed and you just let it, that's your dumbass fault for not knowing that. Or even if you have an attorney. If you watch my videos, I tell people you need to know the rules of evidence. Now, if you struggle figuring them out and they're confusing like they are, you should get my rule of evidence video. If you go to my flow page, there's a link to my store. Under my YouTube videos, there's a link to my flow page, which has a link to my store. Under that, because I always try and explain stuff to you guys so you have an understanding. You don't just, I don't want you to believe stuff just because I said it or just because it sounds good. When I tell you something about the law, I tell you go look up the law yourself. Or something about case law or due process right or Troxel versus Granville or constitutional right to raise your kids. I always tell you to go look it up yourself. So underneath the link to my store on my flow page is a link to a video where I talk about the 3 most important things that every dad needs from my store, especially if you're falsely accused. There's my rules of evidence video. Everybody needs that. Whether you have an attorney or not, you want to make sure your attorney's doing their job. Or have a sit down with your attorney and have him break down the evidence rules. But that will cost you $500 more than my video costs. And you can watch my video over and over and over again. So that being said, the rules of evidence video tells you stuff that how you can keep stuff in, and how you can keep stuff in court that you're bringing in, or how you can object to other people's stuff that shouldn't be in there. So you need to know that kind of stuff. But in this case, and I'm talking about it because you need an expert witness to testify about drug use. So back on the law, if the law says that you can't, if the law says that you can be restricted from your kids if you have a long-term drug problem that interferes with the performance of parenting functions, that's like 4 elements that she has to prove. First of all, she has to prove you have a drug problem, drug abuse problem. So she has to prove that you're abusing weed. So if she comes to court and say, look at this picture of him smoking weed, that doesn't prove anything. And if you know the rules of evidence and you know the law, you can shut that down, but you guys don't read that shit. And you're going to a court of law and you don't even know the damn law. And the rules of evidence govern what's allowed in court, and you don't even pay attention to that. Everybody needs, like I've said in several videos, everybody needs to know the law. It's nice to know case law, the court rules, they're state and local, and how to fill out the forms. And under the court rules includes how to proceed, how to move forward, how to file this and that. And included in that, one of the most important rules is the rules of evidence. So when you put all this stuff together, you can go into court and say, hey, look, the mother shows a picture of me smoking weed. Weed is legal, just like alcohol is legal. If I was drinking a glass of wine or a beer, you wouldn't take the child away, or you would still find her in contempt. The fact that she's just throwing out a picture of me smoking weed doesn't mean anything. She has to prove that I have some kind of problem. And that takes an expert testimony or the evaluation by an expert, a drug and chemical dependencies specialist. The mother can't just go and say, haha, look at this picture right here, weed. If that's the case, here's a picture of her, alcohol. It's whether there's an abuse problem and whether it endangers or impairs you or endangers the child. Duh. That's what the law says. And if you went to court and you had an attorney and somebody just used casual, like if you just recreational use. Now, I highly advise when you're going through a custody battle that you stop that shit and use common sense God gave a monkey, and don't be a stupid jackass and risk losing your kids because you just need a hit one night. If you don't have a problem, you should be able to drop it. If you do have a problem, then you're effing up and you need to fix that. If you care about your kids. But if you worship your marijuana more than you love your kids, then you're a dumbass. But if it's casual use, recreational use, and stuff like that, then you say to the court, where's the evidence of me being abusive? Where's the evidence that it's harmful? Just like alcohol, marijuana is legal, and just because somebody drinks doesn't mean they lose custody. And I don't drink, but I can acknowledge that. I just smoke weed casually or whatever you're saying. And then you shut that crap down and make them look as stupid as possible. And then what's more important, the love of the relationship of the kids, or the fact that they have a picture in their hand of me smoking weed that long? Oh, come on, Your Honor, let's get real. And then also, if you know the oath of an attorney cannot advance any fact that's prejudicial to you unless it's warranted by the justice of the cause. Get the attorney in trouble for that. You need to know all this stuff, and if you don't know it, you need to consult with me, for crying out loud.